All right. Well, welcome to the webinar. Thank you for joining us for this 1 hour code breaker. As you get settled, a few reminders before we get started. Please use the Q&A section for questions today, and remember to be constructive in any of those questions or comments to the presenter and to one another to ensure that we have a session that is productive. And as always, the webinar content and additional resources will be available shortly after the session. Today's webinar, which will focus on multifamily projects, we'll focus on pools and spas, is brought to you by Energy Code ACE. It qualifies for one AIA HSW learning unit for those watching live, and AIA California staff will report that for you once you have finished the session in full. Now to quickly introduce our presenter. Brian Selby is a principal at Selby Engineering, Inc., specializing in developing and delivering comprehensive energy code training, increasing compliance with California's energy code, and promoting sustainable building practices. With over 35 years of experience as an energy consultant, Brian brings a wealth of knowledge and expertise to his role as an energy code subject matter expert. Brian actively collaborates with the California Energy Commission, investor-owned utilities, association professionals, and other industry stakeholders to foster education and ensure compliance with the energy code. His commitment to promoting energy efficiency and sustainable practices is further demonstrated by his role as chairman on the CABEC Board of Directors, showcasing his leadership in the field. Brian, it is always lovely to see you. Please take it
Hi.
away.
Likewise, Rebecca. Thank you so much for that introduction. All right, let's dive into our material. I just want to just welcome everybody today and let you know that happy to take questions as I'm going through the presentation. Just put those questions in the Q&A section, and you can converse amongst yourselves in the chat section. So a little bit of background about myself. I think that bio covers just about everything, but I've been involved in the building design industry, the energy code industry, HERS rating industry in California. Gosh, for years. I started in the mid 1980s, about 1985 or so. And I started out on the pathway to become an architect, and I decided that, hey, I can do what I want to do without getting that. And, it's where I ended up, right? Got involved with the energy code and demonstrated compliance for residential construction, got into non-res, became a HERS rater. Now I'm a certified energy analyst. In fact, I run the program on behalf of the Codes and Standards team for developing certification exams for nerds like me. So, uh, wanted to just give that little bit of background there. So, a couple things we want to do today. Obviously, get you up to speed on the latest changes to the California Energy Code and appliance efficiency regulations, specifically for pools and spas. Uh, Traditionally, pools and spas have had a very, very low compliance rate. It's been regulated in our energy code for years, but by and large, most projects just conveniently forget about that pool and spa. So we're going to be talking about requirements from California, requirements from the federal government for appliance efficiency, as well as some of the specific requirements in our energy code. So we'll be going through at a pretty normal pace, but if you have any questions, let me know. Happy to elaborate on any of the slides we cover here today. Shameless plug for Energy Code ACE. If you haven't been to the Energy Code ACE website in a while, you'll notice things have changed. In fact, we are actively working on tools, training, and resources to support the 2025 Energy Code and the Appliance Efficiency Standards. So, a couple of my favorite tools, the Reference ACE. We do have a 2025 Energy Code Reference ACE tool available now. It's not all the bells and whistles yet, but we're slowly adding all those features. But you can go online and look at the energy code um, and search it and find requirements that might apply to your project. So, one of the other ones we're going to be talking about a little bit later today is the Timeline ACE, one of my projects that I developed for Energy Code ACE. So, we'll be looking into that. Training, lots of training. Like I said, we're in the process of updating all of our courses for the 2025 Energy Code. So, It's always a good idea to register or create a free account, energycodeace.com, identify your role. That way you'll get information based on your role. If you're a designer, you're going to get information on classes, tools, resources available to your role. So good. All right. Without further ado, we're going to go ahead and move on to our presentation information here. Going to give you a little bit of background about the Energy Code and other regulating bodies that regulate appliances here in the U.S. Um, the question is who regulates what? We have the California Energy Commission. They develop and regulate appliance efficiency regulations. That would be under Title 20. So if you're aware of our energy code in California for buildings, it's Title 24, Part 6 specifically, whereas our appliance efficiency regulations are regulated under Title 20. Now, in addition to regulating appliance efficiencies, essentially meaning that every product that is regulated must be certified to the Energy Commission that it meets the minimum efficiencies. Now, in addition to the appliance efficiencies, there are um, flexible demand appliance standards. These are typically controls that have the capability of sending and receiving a demand response signal from the utility. And again, these apply to appliances that are installed in our buildings and um, other processes that are regulated. Lastly, our building efficiency standards. I mentioned this earlier. That is the Title 24 Part 6. Now, we're going to be talking about regulations in all three of these categories. In fact, we're also going to be talking about regulations that are enforced, developed, and regulated at the federal level. So just keep in mind that there are preemption requirements uh, in our code, meaning that in our federal code, that is, that California can't require anything more stringent than what is federally regulated. For those instances where we don't have regulations federally, then California can set the bar on what those appliance or other regulations are. So that said, I want to talk about some dates in which various regulations go into effect. So you might be aware that the 2025 Building Energy Efficiency uh, Standards Code, otherwise known as the Energy Code, this is Title 24, Part 6, goes into effect January 1, 2026. Now, this applies to all building permits. So if you apply on or after this date, January, you'll be subject to the more more recent code. Now, there have been executive orders that have come down the pipe from our governor stating that for some areas, specifically the areas affected by the LA fires and the rebuilds, for those areas, the 2025 Energy Code has been suspended, as well as some of the other requirements. But we'll save that for another course. Just want to let you know that there are some exceptions to these rules and when they apply. Now, our appliance efficiency regulations, our Title 24 code, has an array of dates. Now, some of these dates go way back. So take a look at these. Replacement pool pump motors, July 19th, 2021. That's a fairly recent requirement. That's when we saw the use of um, the variable speed pumps requirements went into effect versus the single speed motors and such. Going even further back to oil-fired pool heaters, January 1, 1990, gas-fired pool heaters back in 2013, and heat pump pool heaters in 2003. So we have a very changing or evolving list of requirements for various appliances here. So one of the more recent um, effective dates. Now this is this month. So towards the end of this month, September 29th, we'll see those pool controls, those demand response pool controls go into effect. So, and again, any project that applies for a permit on or after these effective dates are going to be subject to those new requirements. So, Same goes for our federal appliance efficiency regulations. This is the Department of Energy. They set minimum efficiencies for pool pumps. We saw that again, same effective date, July 19th, 2021. Both the federal government and the state government appliance efficiency regulations coincide because they require the same efficiency. So some of the upcoming regulations, again, end of this month, along with those um, flexible demand controls, we have pool pump motors and electric coming up in 2028, electric pool heaters. We'll talk a little bit more about the strategies of how pools and spas are regulated as far as heating goes, but just understand that those federal appliance efficiency regulations will be going into effect um, towards the end of this month for pool pumps and pool heaters down the road. All right. I mentioned the Timeline Ace. This is just an online version of when these regulations and the public process of reviewing some of these regulations go into effect and are available. So you can go to the Energy Code Ace website and look under tools. That would be the Timeline Ace. And just understand that you can go through and click on any of these milestones and get details on when and what is being regulated, whether it's a federal regulation, a Title 20 appliance efficiency regulation, or a Title 24 building efficiency regulation. So it's a great opportunity if maybe you like how some of the changes are going in our code, you might look into participating in some of the public comment periods during some of these rulemaking phases. So very, it's a great opportunity. I look at it as a great opportunity to get my comments in and be heard in California. So, all right, why is California doing this? The purpose of appliance efficiency regulations and building code regulations is to reduce energy use and not just in general. We're trying to reduce peak energy use. We're trying to reduce the amount of um, fossil fuel energy, meaning that it's non-carbon based energy, renewable energy. Essentially, reducing the wasteful, uneconomic, inefficient, and unnecessary consumption of energy. So pretty easy to understand. Now, um, our codes and standards have different effective dates, and they're not all on the same cycle. So you can see the cadence of updates to these regulations and codes vary. Our appliance efficiency standards here in California, typically these are updated annually, once a year. I know we say it's periodic basis, but there are various aspects of the appliance efficiency regulations um, that really have set the pace from a lot of the federal requirements as well. So that, on average, about every year. Our The federal appliance efficiency regulations, much broader time period, 6 to 8 years. And they do also have a public process that you can make comments and comment on the regulations. Now, our energy code is updated every 3 years, a triannual update on those. And those are synchronized with all of the other building codes. So all of Title 24 is adopted by the Building Standards Commission, and those go into effect statewide. We don't have any jurisdictions that say, no, we will only do, we won't update all of these, only some. It's a statewide adoption of these codes, with the exceptions I mentioned earlier. There are some executive orders by our governor that do limit the implementation of our energy code and some of the requirements there. So. All right, why regulate pools and spas? Pretty obvious. Again, we're trying to save energy, and heating and filtering pools use energy. So most, if not all of these requirements are there to either reduce energy or provide the ability in the future to use a more efficient device. So we'll talk about those specific requirements here in the upcoming slides. So the idea or the goal here is to move those energy into uses, filtration and water temperature, to more efficient means of energy. So you can see some of those bullet points. Uh, Minimize the use of gas and electricity by taking advantage of solar thermal systems. So we're going to be talking about using the sun to transfer heat into water. And that's nearly free energy, right? Minus the pumping. Reducing electricity, moving to heat pump technology rather than electric resistance or a gas technology. Those are come in the form of an air to water heat pump. It's kind of what you're seeing in that picture in the background. Basically extracting heat out of the ambient air and putting it into that water, circulating that water throughout the pool. Our controls limit the use of pumps. Obviously, you don't want to be running a pool pump during your peak uh, tariff pricing for energy, electric energy. So those controls are put into place to limit that and to use the electricity when it's the least expensive, right? The least amount of demand. And then also installing efficient pool pumps and specifically variable speed pool pumps. So that's really the reasons why. There may be other benefits to being uh, energy efficient and code compliant, but these are the primary reasons why California regulates these so much. Now, speaking of our appliance efficiency standards, now there's multiple facets of enforcement here. Now, in order to sell a product that is regulated in California, the manufacturer is responsible for certifying to the Energy Commission that it meets all of the regulations, right? That means that they've tested their product according to the appropriate testing protocols, and they have certified to the Energy Commission through their, I call it MAIDS database. It's the Modern Appliance Efficiency Database System. Don't be fooled. It's a very clunky old database. The term modernized, not sure if that is all accurate, but it is a searchable database. And we'll, if we have time, I'll demo that for you. So now, distributors and retailers are also responsible for ensuring that the products that they're selling in California, whether that distributor or retailer is located in California or not, they are responsible if they sell a product to a California address that those products, pool products, that are regulated, meet the federal and state efficiency requirements and are listed in the MAIDS database. Likewise for the installing contractor. So everybody on this supply chain is responsible for ensuring that the products that they're putting in meet the minimum requirements. So, and this is a good thing. If there are products being installed that are not certified to the Energy Commission, those products technically cannot be sold in California and should shouldn't be allowed. So. Now, this is a snapshot of the appliance efficiency database. There are two versions of this. There is a simple search and an advanced search. I prefer the advanced search. You've got a little bit more flexibility with finding products. It's as simple as selecting a category, in this case, pool products, selecting appliance. We'll see this in just a moment, the various options. There's about 5 options for various appliances within the pool products category. And then select the appliance status. Obviously, we're looking for approved products, not discontinued products. And that will generate a list of products that are that have been certified to the Energy Commission, meeting the federal and state efficiency regulations. Good. Just want to remind folks, if you have questions, please drop those in the Q&A section. Happy to address these if needed. So I'm just going to keep moving along. If there are no questions, we're going to be moving into some of the requirements. What triggers the requirement for meeting, energy code for a pool and spa? And we're going to talk about the five options that, well, really four options, but technically there are five options for demonstrating compliance for pool heating systems, and among a few other things here. So, all right, first things first, mandatory requirements. A couple things I'd like to point out that mandatory in the energy code does not mean suggested, right? Mandatory requirements that they apply to a project are mandatory. There's no way to trade these away using a performance approach or putting something in that's more efficient. You have to meet mandatory requirements unless an exception applies. In this case, we're giving you some of the requirements here. Again, these are in subchapter 2 in the building efficiency standards. So we're in the Title 20, Title 24, Part 6, 2022 standards, subchapter 2, section 110.4a. Essentially says electric resistance heating is not allowed unless exception one, listed package units. That means it's a unitary package unit, fully insulated enclosure with tight fitted covers that are insulated to at least R6. Those are acceptable. Again, those need to be certified in the Energy Commission for meeting the efficiency standards. Second exception is pools or spas derive at least 60% of annual heating energy from site solar or recovered energy. We're going to talk about this option, how to apply this option here. So, but essentially it's saying if you have enough on-site generation or renewable energy, sure, you can do a electric resistance pool heating. Probably the worst efficiency, or I should say the most cost, right? So if you're producing that energy on site, you're fine. Good. Now, the triggers for um, pool heating systems, again, a new heated pool or spa, or if you have an existing unheated pool or spa and you're adding new heat to um, that pool or spa. So, as I mentioned before, all of these requirements are mandatory. There's no optionals. You can't say, well, this is this is we're getting compliance because we exceeded our energy budget of our building by a certain margin. That is not acceptable. Mandatory measures mean mandatory regardless as long as they apply to a project. So we're going to start into some of the heating options here. So again, these are found in subchapter 2, section 110.4C. We're going to go through all five options here. And I do like to point out some of our terms here, difference between a public pool and a residential pool. These requirements vary based on whether that pool is accessible to the public or it's an individual dwelling unit. So, option one is a solar pool heating system where you have a solar thermal system set up. Um, Now, there are requirements for supplemental heating, meaning that the secondary heat, when there's not enough sun available during the heating seasons for that pool or spa, you can use a backup heat, the gas, electric resistance, and so forth, but it's not the primary. So for non-residential multifamily public pools, these are pools that have access from all the occupants of the building or space. Um, that the solar collector surface area is at least 65% of the pool surface area. That's pretty simple to calculate. Whatever the pool surface area times 0.65 is going to give you the amount of surface area of solar thermal collector. Now, those collectors should be placed in the appropriate azimuth and tilt for optimal heat exchange from that solar. Moving down to our single family or multifamily residential pool spas. Now, when we talk about multifamily residential, um, it would be considered a residential pool if the pool had access to only one resident of a multifamily, meaning that every resident had their own pool. Wouldn't that be a great apartment building to live in, right? So essentially, the pool can only be is only accessible to a single individual occupant. So in that case, then the solar thermal collector is only 60% of the surface area. Ishmael says, can they have like floor heating system or does it have to be supplied by solar? Ishmael, this is putting heat into the water. So this is a direct heat transfer through a solar thermal collector that goes to the pool water or the spa water. So it's not for buildings. So now you may be talking about putting in-floor heat in a pool. I've never heard of that, but uh, it might be possible. So all right. Moving on to option number two, use a heat pump water heater. Again, like I mentioned earlier, these are heat pumps that extract heat out of the ambient air and transfer that to water that is then circulated throughout the pool. So there are some requirements that heat pump pool heater be sized to either the manufacturer recommendations or using reference joint appendices, Chapter 16, specifically JA 16.3. That will soon be available on the reference ACE. Not currently. You can download the reference joint appendices from the California Energy Commission's website. So in addition to that, the controls for the heat pump pool heater with supplemental heating. That means that when the outdoor ambient temperature falls below, let's say 35 degrees, there's not enough heat in that ambient air for that heat pump to work efficiently. In those cases, a supplemental pool heating can operate. This could be electric resistance supplemental heating. It could be a gas supplemental heating. So, but when the supplementary heating is used, the supplementary heater shall not operate when the heating load can be met by a heat pump. So essentially, when that outdoor ambient reaches 35 degrees or higher. All right, third option here. Um, uh, 60% of the annual heating of that pool and or spa is provided by on-site renewable energy. So meaning that you have a solar PV system large enough to supply the house and the additional for the pool. Maybe you have a wind turbine or a geothermal system or other systems that might be considered one of the renewable energy. Now, this does require a licensed mechanical engineer to use those processes I mentioned that are in Reference Joint Appendices Chapter 16, specifically JA 16.4, to document that this heating system meets the 60% on-site renewable. So that is a prerequisite there. Moving on to option four, I would assume that this would be probably the most popular option. Use a heat pump and a solar pool heating system with no supplemental heat. So essentially, the heat pump works in conjunction with the solar thermal system to provide heat for that pool and spa. So pretty simple concept here. Again, same rules apply. Solar thermal system needs to be sized according to the surface area of the pool, and the heat pump needs to be sized according to Reference Joint Appendices Chapter 16. So third one, or the fifth one, I should say. That's why at the beginning I said, well, there's really four, but actually in reality there are five options, but this is the catch-all option. So other Energy Commission approved systems that might be approved during this code cycle. We typically don't see a lot of this type of code enacted, but I know in recent history we saw this type of option exercised between the 2016 code and the 2019 code when we saw heat pump water heaters become really popular and extremely efficient, where the executive director said, "Yeah, we can now allow you to switch out existing gas water heaters with a heat pump water heater." So that was triggered through a clause in the code very similar to this clause. So these are for the future technology that might come along that would exceed the efficiency of anything listed prior to this. All right, we do have exceptions, and I'm a firm believer, read those exceptions. There might be an exception that applies to you. And it's very important that you understand that even with mandatory requirements, exceptions may apply that would exempt you from those requirements. So alterations to existing heating pools or spas. As I mentioned before, if you have an existing pool or spa that is unheated and you add heat to it, you're subject to these requirements. If you have an existing heated pool and you're altering it to replace the heating system, update it, and so forth, you're not subject to these requirements. You can replace it with like equipment. So we'll talk about those allowances for alterations here coming up shortly. Spas, permanent spas being added to existing buildings in which natural gas is available. So now we're specifically talking about spas if it's a permanent spa in ground, not an above ground where, you go to the showroom, they deliver it to you and plug it in a wall. That's not a permanent spa. That's a portable spa. So permanent spas being added to existing buildings which natural gas available. The Energy Code has a specific definition of when natural gas is available for existing buildings. That means it is available not only at the street, but it is plumbed to the building. So if it's a new construction project, natural gas available is when natural gas is available at the street. For an existing building, it's when natural gas is available at the building level. So portable electric spas, those are regulated under our appliance efficiency standards rather than our building efficiency standards. So pool electric portable spas are allowed um, uh, to be installed without meeting these mandatory requirements. And then lastly, new spas when there's an inadequate solar access roof area or SARA to fit the solar thermal collectors, meaning that you've triggered these requirements to install a solar thermal system, um, but you don't have enough area on the roof or anywhere. Maybe the site is shaded, and you can't meet this requirement. So this would require the use of one of the Energy Commission's approved solar assessment tools. Uh, when you get the workbook later, you can use some of the links that we've provided in these slides to access some of these websites. But solar assessment tool is a tool used to determine the amount of annual solar access that's available to a site. Now, these software applications are fee-based. They're not free. In fact, the most common one is very expensive. So I would suggest engaging with an energy consultant that provides these type of services if that is the situation here. So all right, moving on to pool covers. Anytime you install a new pool or heat an existing pool, it's required that a pool cover be installed to retain that heat and reduce the amount of evaporation of that water. So now, it does require documentation. There is a specific form that must be submitted to the building department, well, after installation. So these vary based on the occupancy type. So for single family buildings, or if it's a uh, single family pool accessible to only one occupant of a multifamily building, be using that CF2R, which is a certificate of installation, and the PLB, which is plumbing O3. That would be the specific form. For low-rise multifamily, LMCI, that's the certificate of installation. And for non-res, that's the NRCI certificate of installation using the covered process form. So, and these all have various thresholds based on the building occupancy and the type there. So, so the installing contractor needs to provide a certificate of installation. If option number three is used, that means that 60% of the annual heating is provided by on-site renewables, then they will need a licensed mechanical engineer to provide that documentation indicating that the existing on-site renewable does meet that 60% threshold. Good. Now, getting back to our appliance efficiency standards for pool heaters, again, it's a responsibility all down the chain from the manufacturer to the retailer or wholesaler to the installer to certify or to ensure that those products that they're installing are certified. So here again is another example of the advanced search features of the appliance efficiency database. Again, you can go there. I like the advanced search tools. You can see here we're using pool products as our category. The appliance would be heat pump pool heaters. If you're using a heat pump pool heater or gas fired or whatever, just keep that in mind. Those search features. Pretty simple to drill down on those. So the outcome is you're going to get a list of products that are certified to the Energy Commission. So you can either download that in an Excel or CSV format, or just view it on your browser. So either way is fine. All right, here is our first check your understanding quiz. Now, you're welcome to type this into the chat or the Q&A, whatever you want, but I'll read these questions. You provide the answers for me and we'll move on. So, what do you think about this? Does this solar thermal pool heating system meet the mandatory requirements? Let's take a look at the size of the pool, the size of the array, gut check. We're not getting technical here. Answer A is yes. The solar collector area looks to be 60% of the pool service area, or no, the solar collector area must be 100% of the pool service area. What do you think? All right. I'm seeing a couple of A's. A. All right. Good. Yeah. So if you said A, absolutely right. So essentially, that is a mandatory requirement that pool needs to have a solar thermal system of at least 60% of the surface area of the pool. Awesome. Good. Right on. Everyone's following along. I love this. All right. Question number two. If the residential pool uses a gas pool heater, what options allow for the gas pool heater? So, can you use a heat pump as the primary heating with a gas backup? Can you use 60% of renewable energy system with a gas backup? And C is, can you use a 60% solar thermal system with a gas backup? So this is a select all that apply. And I'll throw it out there. Select all that apply. If that's any sort of hint there. All right. So I should be seeing there's one. I see A, B, and C. So if you selected all those, absolutely, those are all options for installing a gas pool heater. So it may not be the primary heat source, but it is possible to install a gas heater. All right. A couple of resources for you. A couple of things before we wrap things up here. As I mentioned earlier, this is a fairly quick code breaker, and if any of you are interested, once I get through some of this closeout stuff, any questions, I could also demonstrate the MAIDS database, the appliance efficiency database, if you'd like me to do that. So here is a 2025 version of our non-res single family and multifamily pool and spa heating fact sheet. A lot of the information that we covered is summarized and detailed in our fact sheets. These are excellent resources to hand to your clients. Why do I have to comply with pool and spa requirements? That seems silly. You can send this to them. It'd be a nice little fact sheet there. So. All right, some of the other requirements here, some of the components of the pool and spa requirements that must be met in order to be compliant. So, heating equipment. Again, this is found, these are mandatory requirements found in subchapter 2, section 110.4A and B. So, heating equipment must have permanent, easily readable instructions. Again, these are the manufacturer's responsibility to make sure that the instructions for the pool heater are available and when it's installed are available uh, permanently attached to that pool heater. Piping and directional inlets, again, mandatory requirements say it says that piping must be include one of the following to allow for future addition of solar heating equipment. So again, I mentioned before, some of these requirements are there to provide the future installation of a more efficient heating source. So if a solar system is not being installed, must install at least 18 inches of horizontal or vertical pipe between the filter. So we have the filter right here and oops, filter and the heater. The heater is over here. So sorry, my screen jumps forward when I do that. So at least 18 inches, right? Sorry, I missed the slide here. So at least 18 inches somewhere. Sorry, folks. I have my, there we go. Apologize for that. Um, so either the 18 inches or provide a dedicated suction and return line for the future solar thermal system or a built-in or built-up connections, meaning that those connections are already in place, glued into that PVC or ABS piping. So uh, pools must have directional inlets, meaning that those jets in the pool um, uh, are circulating water around the pool. So that's what that means. What that does is it not only adequately mixes the chlorination or whatever sort of sanitizing in there, it also mixes the water within the pool. So it's not just congregate in one location. So plumbing or piping before the pump, a straight pipe must be installed with at least um, the length of 4 pipe diameters. So again, this is the inlet before the pump. Pool piping size so that the velocity of the water at the maximum flow for auxiliary pool loads does not exceed on the return line 8 feet per second and on the suction line 6 feet per second. Again, these are calculations that would need to be done in order to size the piping correctly so that we don't get any resistance against that pump. Anytime you increase resistance, a pump has to work harder, use more energy. So you want to make sure that the piping flows correctly. That goes for the elbows. Anytime that there is an elbow, a 90 degree, 45 degree, those need to be sweeping elbows, not hard 90 and hard 45 degree elbows. So a backwash valve must be 2 inch or the diameter of the return pipe, whichever is greater. So uh, Kimon says, will AI help meeting these code requirements? That's a good question. I found that depending on which AI you use, they've been fairly accurate because they reference all of our material. So yeah, I think AI would be an excellent tool, but always say, trust but verify. Take the information for AI and then go research it yourself to make sure that it is stating the right requirements. So. All right. In addition to the plumbing pool heater switches, you have to have a readily accessible on-off switch mounted on the outside of the heater. Uh, Pretty obvious. You got to be able to turn it on and off by the operator. Pool recirculation equipment. Again, the pool is incorporating into the time switches that will not allow the pump to run during peak uh, periods, meaning that period between 4 p.m. and 9 p.m. That's when your electric rates are at their highest because of the higher demand. So, and then it has to run for the minimum time necessary to maintain water quality. So, I think we have that coming up in the upcoming slides here. Um, Again, this is going to our appliance efficiency standards. This is um, our demand, flexible demand controls here, basically giving control so that the pool filter, the heater, the cleaner, all that equipment runs efficiently, but not during times of higher demand, right? So it has to have that capability of responding to a demand response signal doesn't necessarily mean that the occupant or the pool owner needs to subscribe to a utility demand response system. It just needs to have the capability to adjust the time and possibly the temperature of the heating, based on a demand response signal. So some of the appliance standards include those pump controls. Again, part of the FDAS requirements to have the communication capability, to have an internal clock, and then have a default operating schedule. So when things get overridden and reset back to defaults, that it defaults to not operating during those higher demand areas. So. Good. Pool pumps. Again, these are regulated by our uh, Title 20 Appliance Efficiency Standards. These were effective July 1st, 2021. Replacement dedicated purpose pool pump motors with a motor total horsepower, THP, less than or equal to 5 total horsepower. So those pumps must be variable speed. If the pump is a half horsepower, total horsepower or more. So, and these are good. You need to slow down that pump speed and turn that water over slower. And it has been proven to save 3, 4, 5 times the energy a constant velocity pump is. So, all right, some more regulations. Again, these are from our federal DOE requirements. Single phase equipment is effective September, again, at the end of this month, 2025. All motors are less than zero point 0.5 total horsepower or uh, between 1.15 to 5 horsepower. So this also affects our uh, th two-phase, I would say two-phase here, effective in September, all motors with a half horsepower to 1.15 total horsepower. So great. Um, More DOE requirements here. So single pass pool filtration pumps less than 2.5 hydraulic horsepower for residential or commercial use. Again, self-priming and non-self-priming pool filter pumps, waterfall pumps, pressure uh, cleaner or boost pumps. All of these are going to be regulated under our federal efficiency guidelines. Those include those integral filter pumps. Those are the non-bypassable type. So, all right. I told you we'd be doing a little bit of code jumping around, right? Appliance efficiency standards, federal appliance efficiency regulations, and now back to our building energy efficiency standards. So these are for residential pool pumps. So we're in subchapter 7, section 150.0. P for those dedicated pool pumps. Again, defining what the minimum requirements are for installing these. So, got to have controls with more than one speed. You got to be able to program to default minimum filtration flow rates. You got to have a programmed default to flow rates within 24 hours of operation. That pool pump needs to be proven to meet flow rates. Again, using the formula here outlined in section 150.0p. So the total head of water equals the coefficient based on the pool volume times the flow rate in gallons squared. So that is a pretty simple calculation to do. In fact, that would be a calculation that must be done and documented on the compliance form. Uh, Filtration pumps. So if a filtration pump uh, is used, obviously you're using that to circulate water. It needs to be sized. If programmable, should be assigned to the program, so the filtration flow rate is not greater than the rate needed to turn the pool over, meaning that you can replace all the water within the pool within 6 hours. So you either get 6 hours or 36 gallons per minute, whichever is greater. And then obviously the pool is sized per the appropriate regulations there. Now, in the workbook, we provide a very nice checklist. This might be helpful for ensuring that the projects that you're working on meet all of the regulations. So everything that we've talked about here is summed up in this two-page. I think it's a two-page form. We might have a backside of that form. So just to provide easy at-a-glance reference to all of these requirements. All right, let's do our last check understanding quiz, and we're just about done here. So, when will the flexible demand requirement pool controls standards go into effect? Is that January 1, 2026, or the end of this month, right? 9/29/25. Let's see how good of memory you have. All right, I'm seeing a lot of A's, some B's. All right, so if you said B, you'd be right. The building efficiency standard, so Title 24, Part 6, goes into effect January 1, 2026. We have new flexible demand requirements for our pool controls go into effect the end of this month. So yeah, we a little gotcha. So sorry about that. All right, question number two. The FDAS pool control regulations require connection to a utility demand response program that dictates when pool equipment can operate. Is that a true statement or a false statement? So remember when I was talking about those, they said that the controls have to have the capability of responding to a demand response signal. They don't have to subscribe to a demand response program. So that's just provides the ability for the pool owner or occupant to subscribe to that, and they might get a little incentive for doing that. So good. Couple more questions here. A distributor is selling a new 1.5 horsepower pool pump. You want to buy and sell them to your customers. What do you have to do? Do you have to check the manufacturer date on the product? You have to check the product's model number on the MAIDS database, the appliance efficiency database. You need to confirm with the distributor that the product is compliant, or do nothing. This is a select all that apply here. You guys know the drill. All right, so good. I hope you're having fun with this. This is a fun course to go through. So yeah, so if you said A, B, and C, yeah, and not do nothing, right? So that would be, so if you're going to go into installing pool pumps and filters and stuff, yeah, you got to do all three of those. Good. All right, let's talk about a couple of next steps, and we'll open it up to Q&A if anybody had anything else. So, a couple of things I like to note that part of Energy Code ACE, the larger codes and standards program, provides a website for local REACH codes. These are ordinances that are adopted by local government, approved by the Energy Commission for above code requirements. So you can go to the website. We have a great interactive map. You can search jurisdictions and find out what those REACH codes are. Very, very helpful tool. We've already talked about our fact sheets here. This is the fact sheet I mentioned earlier, the pool and spa heating fact sheet. We have lots of others. So make sure to jump on there. In fact, I recommend using the filtering feature when you go to any of the Energy Code ACE uh, materials. So very helpful. And then here's some of the pages from our fact sheet here. DOE resources. So you can go to the Department of Energy and get, use these links for pool heaters and heat pump pool heaters and such. We have some wonderful virtual classes. In fact, if you go to the Energy Code ACE YouTube channel, we have lots of videos about the pool and spa requirements, as well as some on-demand courses for pools and spa pumps. So check those out on the training page. So, and of course, I mentioned the Timeline ACE, one of my pet projects that helped develop here. you can use that to find out when new requirements are going into place. Now, there is a Title 24 element to this too. So if you're interested in knowing when some of the key dates are around building energy efficiency standards, you can search that out as well. So great. Good. Ways to reach us at Energy Code Ace. A lot of times we don't share our email addresses. And rather, what we do is we tell folks if you have questions, you can submit your questions to subject matter experts like myself and others, Gina Rada, Nick Brown, and so forth, by selecting anywhere on the Energy Code Ace website, ask a question, or if you see a question mark. Now, when you do make those questions or submit questions, make sure you provide us with enough detail and information so that we can understand what your question is. In fact, if you make your question a residential building question, those go directly to me. If you make your question a non-residential building question, those go directly to Gina Rada. So we don't have um, interns responding to folks. We field those ourselves. So that's a great way to reach us specifically. So, all right, that's about all I have for today. I'm going to turn this back over to Rebecca. Uh, uh, and please let me know if you have any questions. I see Robert has a question in the Q&A section. What is the remodel trigger for single family homes to upgrade an existing gas pool or spa? Robert, again, if it's an existing heated pool, um, they are subject to the energy code requirements as an alteration. They still need to meet the mandatory pool pump requirements. If they're replacing a heater, they can replace it with like equipment. So those requirements, I believe, are found in subchapter 9, section 150.2 B. Those would be for alterations. So apologize, we didn't wrap all that up into here. So great. All right.
They're coming in. So here we are
Oh,
with
great.
3 minutes left. Kenny has one in the chat, and then an
Okay.
anonymous one just got dropped into the Q&A.
All right. So Kenny says, so if you don't have room for solar, can you install a gas heater if it's on a list of approved products? That is a good question, Kenny. So, as I covered some of the exceptions. So, for example, for the pool thermal system, if you don't have enough solar access to install a solar thermal system, you'd have to use the Energy Commission's approved solar assessment tool to prove that you don't have enough. In that case, that would exempt you from the requirement for a solar thermal. Now, there weren't any options for a new pool to use gas as a primary heat. So you would have to install a heat pump pool heater. You just would be exempt from the solar thermal aspect of that pool heater. Now, that heat pump could have a gas backup in that case. So hopefully that makes sense, Kenny. Good. Were there any others, Rebecca, that I missed?
Nope, it was the same question that got popped into the Q&A.
Oh,
So
perfect. Good.
yeah,
Well, this has been a lot of fun. Yeah, please, I have my email address there. If you have just general questions about energy code and such, you're welcome to reach out to me. If you have specific energy code related questions, we prefer that you submit the question through Energy Code Ace help desk. That way, we get credit for all of those answers and such. So our evaluators really love to see all that data. So it would be really helpful for us. So great. Well, I'll turn
awesome.
it back to you, Rebecca.
Yeah, thank you. And just to
Of
know, I
course.
did pop that link for the Q&As into the chat, so it's clickable. But we will have the resources available on the AIA California webpage in the coming days. And just a thank you, where there's a bunch of thanks in the chat, and I will mirror that. Brian, thank you so much. Energy Code Ace, thank you so much.
My
Um,
pleasure. Thank
we
you. It's
will see
always
you
an
guys.
honor
Yeah,
to present here.
definitely.
I love this. I love your forum. Your members are amazing. And thank you. We really appreciate this opportunity.
That is awesome to hear. And we'll see you at the next one. So
All
thank
right.
you again. Everyone enjoy your afternoon.
All right. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.